Prince Andrew and Princess Eugenie. Video analysis. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I've established in parts passing that Prince Andrew is also a narcissist, and I've given the detailed reasons why that is. This, of course, is done after a detailed examination of a vast range of material which shows behaviours over a period of time. And in those circumstances, what we then are able to do, having established that somebody is a narcissist, is interpret their behaviours when involved with other people and situations where other people are around to explain what's actually going on. As I make it repeatedly clear, there is no such thing as a part-time narcissist. The narcissist doesn't switch off their narcissism and, at a particular point in the day, behaves in a genuine fashion. When the narcissist is involved with other people, where they're being observed by other people, or contemplating the involvement of other people, the narcissism governs the actions of that narcissist for the purpose of the attainment of the prime aims. Accordingly, if the narcissist just pours himself a glass of water, that's nothing to do with the prime aims. He's having a drink. Whereas, if that narcissist pours himself a drink of water and a drink of water for somebody else, he's governed by his narcissism to commit a benign act towards that other person in order to control them and draw fuel from them. It isn't of itself a simple, kind act. We don't do things for the sake of themselves. We do them when it involves other people in order to get the prime aims in some shape or form. And you must remember this. Accordingly, it is not the case that you will see certain behaviours of the narcissist think, oh yeah, there they were being genuinely kind, and that other occasion they were being horrible. When they were being horrible, that's being a narcissist, but when they were being genuinely kind, they weren't being a narcissist. No, narcissists aren't genuinely kind. We only exhibit kindness because it serves our purpose for the purposes of asserting control, drawing fuel, and in some instances facade management, and perhaps the acquisition of character traits and residual benefits. It's very important that you understand this. Therefore, having established that somebody is a narcissist, we are then able to examine all of their behaviours through the prism of their narcissism and explain what's truly going on. Here, we have some video material which involves the recent death of Queen Elizabeth and the tributes that have been placed at the gates. Various members of the royal family are there, the Princess Royal and her husband, Sir Tim Lawrence, Prince Edward, Sophie, Countess of Wessex, Prince Andrew, Princess Eugenie. And there is a useful opportunity to see the dynamic between father and daughter, where he, the narcissist, interacts with her, which allows you to understand more of the narcissistic dynamic and various facets of it. Let's watch the material, and then I'll take you through it. Here it comes. So we see the various members of the royal family looking at all the flowers, and you can see that Eugenie is upset at intake of breath there, and her father, Andrew, getting out the old spectacles to take a better look, and then he sidles up beside his daughter, placing an arm upon her shoulder. This is seen as an act of comfort, but it, of course, is physical control of his daughter. Remember, he's being governed through his narcissism, so whilst it's seen as comforting, and his narcissism indicates for him to do that, it's actually being done to control her. And he continues placing his arm around her, and then she reciprocates and leans into him, clearly upset by the occasion of the death of her grandmother. And then he dips down, and you'll notice that as he moves downwards, he keeps his hand on his daughter, sliding it down over her back, over her bottom, and the top of her left leg. If he were not a narcissist, you might say, that's a little bit unusual that he let his hands kind of linger there for a little while on his daughter. It's a bit of unusual. And it of itself is, of course, a lack of boundary recognition to be so tactile with her. It also would exhibit a sense of entitlement. So even if you were dealing with a non-narcissist and you saw that behavior, you would not, just on that behavior alone, say, that's a narcissist. But what you would be able to say is that behavior demonstrates poor boundary recognition and a sense of entitlement. Potentially also an absence of emotional empathy, because it might make his daughter think, Dad, what are you doing? We know that Andrew is a narcissist. He's been examined as such. And therefore, we see that this is further confirmation of that by virtue of his physical control of his daughter by appearing to comfort her. His narcissism tells him to act in that way. It's pretty superficial, given his status. There's no real meaning, there's no genuine concern, of course, and it's done whereby it's not really operating a facade, but more part of just doing the right thing. The type of narcissist that he is, which I mentioned in parts past him, is able to pay limited lip service to appearing to care, but then moves on. A lot of the time would just brush over it. So, for instance, his type of narcissist would be whereby if you had perhaps, your wife had left you when you went round to see this particular type of narcissist, oh dear me, being all upset, my wife has left me, you'd be most likely met with, so, she was a pain in the arse, we can go and see the strippers now, what are you whinging about? Practical, possibly quite accurate, but lacking sympathy. Here, because of the close connection between the two, there is the appearance of sympathy, but it's fleeting, superficial, and of course, it leads to the boundary transgression. This is demonstrative of his sense of entitlement, that he subconsciously sees his daughter as an extension of himself, and that he can in effect run his hand over her in this manner. He doesn't grope her, it's not like he gives a cheeky squeeze of one of her butt cheeks, but the fact that his hand lingers in the way that it does is a boundary transgression, a sense of entitlement and lack of emotional empathy, and is commensurate with his narcissism. And also, of course, because he doesn't operate a facade, a narcissist that would operate a facade would be far less likely to behave in that manner, because the facade would be going, you can't do that, you can't do that. Of course, as you know, the facade doesn't always stay in place. Also, the narcissist might not realize they're being overlooked. And that kind of behavior, although they're a different type of narcissist, brings to mind, of course, the behavior of President Joe Biden with his sniffing of children's hair, something I'll be addressing on another occasion. Here, Andrew doesn't operate a facade, so his narcissism sees nothing wrong with letting his hand trail down his daughter's back over her bottom and the top of his leg. He has no due regard for what people might think about that. It guided him to create the appearance of comfort, which was really about controlling her physically, asserting control over her directly, and then, because there's no facade, and because he has no boundary recognition, and because of that sense of entitlement, when he dips down, rather than moving his hand away, he lets it go down over her, continuing to assert control over her. A short interaction, but a useful one in terms of helping you understand the nature of a non-facade using narcissist and the way that that manifests. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.